Now let's take a look at a couple Web 2.0 classroom uses. There are several ways that we can use Web 2.0 resources to make accommodations and modifications in the classroom for our students with special needs. Last week we talked about one of those tools. If we want to look at presenting content in a variety of formats, we need to look at presenting that content in audio, video, visual, and also collaborative environments. Let's take a look at audio. Remember last week we looked at the website Read the Words, which allowed us to convert any text into an audio file or an MP3 file. This is a great example of a regular internet user using Web 2.0 tools to produce content. Video is another great option for us, and Discovery Education United Streaming offers great tools for your typical internet user to use video in the classroom. In addition, tools like TeacherTube and YouTube allow you to become a producer and upload your video and share it with the World Wide Web. In terms of visual content, we can become a creator of visual content through tools like graphic organizers online with Bubble.us. We'll take a look at this tool as our technology tool of the night. And then finally, collaboration tools are widespread on the internet. Google Docs is just one tool that we can use to create content, to share content, and also collaborate on material that we were working on with students. Okay, these are great examples of Web 2.0 tools. Eddie Byrne also discussed the use of open source to address students with special needs, classroom needs. Open source is really defined as software that's built openly and collaboratively. It allows us as users to run it, copy that software, we can distribute it, we can change it, and we can also improve it, okay, for free. We don't pay for the software. These are all things that we can do for free that the creator of the software has allowed us to do. There are several pros and cons to using open source, okay? Pros, when we look at that, is cost. Typically, open source products are going to be free. For example, here's one that many of us use, the browser Firefox. Okay, that's an open source internet browser that many of us use. We don't pay for. It's free. It's also stable and reliable. Okay, another example of open source software that some of us may use is Facebook. Okay, we use that to collaborate socially, and that's an open source free tool. The quality of open source, many of them are now stable and reliable, and just as stable and reliable as software that costs money. For example, OpenOffice is an open source software program that's very similar to Microsoft Office. It has a tool just like Word, PowerPoint, and Excel. It's a very stable and reliable software. There's also independence when it comes to open source. We're not forced to upgrade, and we have more options to customize if that's what we need to do. And finally, there's a lot of support for open source. If you run into difficulties, there's typically free support from a large community of developers and users that are using that open source software. When we look at the cons related to open source, one that we clearly need to look at is how user-friendly it is. Typically, open source may be more user-friendly to a trained programmer, in that it's designed by programmers who maybe aren't putting in, the final touches in terms of the user end, but if you have some programming background, the software would be more user-friendly to you. Second, curriculum applications may not be as easily available. Typically what we see are applications that help us in terms of our daily performance or work performance, but we don't yet see a lot of curriculum applications in open source.